Police officers of Reddit, what was your oh crap moment? Thanks for being here today, guys. My name is Em, and let's get into it. Please make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our creepy uploads. Story 1. A suicidal girl was dropped off at the hospital. Myself and my colleague were there escorting another prisoner from custody. This girl came and spoke to a prisoner. They'd never before spoken, but they were just making idle hospital waiting room chit-chat. The girl vanishes, not bothered. We don't know why she's there, who she is. We just assumed she'd gone somewhere else. After a while, our prisoner says, "That girl's been in the toilet a long time. Perhaps she's having a big poo." We laughed and then realized it had been a while. So I start banging the door. No answer. Door is locked. I unscrew the lock and she sat there, wheezing, and she's not super responsive. My colleague goes for help and a nurse comes in and unzips her jacket. And she's made a ligature from a sock, and she's not blue and not breathing. I managed to cut it off. It was on tight. We couldn't get scissors on it to cut it. And she's taken through to get checked. Now breathing again. My partner goes with her. I stood by the door with my prisoner getting air. The whole thing is stressful. This happened in the middle of a busy A&E. ER for you Yanks. People are just looking at me. Next thing I know, a healthcare assistant is running out to me because this girl's now becoming violent and my partner needs help. I can't leave my prisoner and I can't leave my partner to get beat up. I chose to go for my partner. This girl is smashing her head into a wall, kicking, hitting, and trying to bite. It took 3 of us to get her calm. I barely managed to get the assistant shout out before going in. Radio signal is poor to non-existent. Luckily, the prisoners sat patiently in the waiting room while we dealt with that. They weren't cuffed. They could have ran and there was nothing we could do to stop it. On top of all the stress that day caused, I didn't really have the oh crap moment until I was in my car on the way home, and I realized a girl nearly died 5 feet away from me. I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for the prisoner paying attention to where their new friend went. First of all, Yank here, and I don't think I've heard someone call me that in like 5 years. Second, I want to give major props to OP and their partner for being able to react the way they did and undoubtedly saving someone's life today. Shout out to the prisoner too for staying there instead of running away. Maybe it was because of shock or them being a good person. I don't know. What I do know is that by not running away, they probably saved OP's job. Story 2. Just checked into my shift. As I turned my patrol car on, my radio was in mid-broadcast about an accident just outside the city I worked in. I voluntarily checked en route to help out the best I could. While heading there, I was informed that it was actually closer to the next city over, but that I would still be the first one there. I was then told it was a head-on collision. I arrived on scene about a minute later. It was, in fact, a head-on collision. 5 people from one vehicle were not wearing seatbelts. All 5 were fatally injured beyond any measure. There was nothing I could do. A doctor showed up on scene shortly after me. Nothing he could do. I watched 2 adults and 3 children die in front of my eyes. The 6-year-old little girl just stared at me, unblinking as she passed. I still get emotional. They were students at our elementary school. I knew them because I routinely go to that school, just to see the little kids and give them junior police stickers, take pictures with them, and let them play with my gadgets and police car. I went to the memorial service that the school put on for the girls to pay my respects. Their father was there and didn't know who I was, or that I was the first one there, or what I saw. He was talking to another father, clearly in between denial and anger phases, about how he wished he knew what officer it was on scene, so he could kill him for not doing anything, and why didn't he do anything, and blaming me for their deaths. That was really hard to hear. I wish I was a superhero, and could have used magic powers to save these poor children. I'm sorry, little ones. You deserve to live your lives. I understand the father's anger as much as I can, but I do think it's unfair that he wanted to blame you so adamantly for not saving his daughter. I wish someone could explain that it was whoever put the kids in the car without their seatbelts on. I've said this a few times, so bear with me, but I'm a part-time EMT. The amount of avoidable traumas I see because people don't wear their seatbelt is infuriating. Always buckle up, guys, and at the very least, buckle your damn kids up. Story 3. A law professor in Australia spent 20 years as a cop before becoming a lawyer, and eventually teaching. In explaining the battered wife syndrome defense to murder, he told of a story of a call to a little old lady's house where she said on the phone that she had killed her husband. Before this incident, he didn't really understand why it existed. Why doesn't the woman just leave? Why doesn't she just go to someone else's house? Professor shows up to the door and is greeted by a little old lady saying, "Come in, would you like some tea?" He goes in and and she starts putting some cakes on a tray and pouring tea. He wonders if she's all there. He asked, "So you said that you killed your husband on the phone. Would I be able to see him?" She directs him to the living room where the old man was on a lazy boy chair, bottle in hand, and a tomahawk in his skull. Meanwhile, the old lady is asking if he takes sugar or milk in his tea. The professor said at this moment he realized why the defense of a battered wife existed. The drunk old guy had been beating her for years, controlled all the money, and didn't let her have friends. She had nowhere to go, even if she left him. So on this day, after saying he was gonna beat her if his sports team lost, she took matters into her own hands. He said this was the moment he realized that sometimes there are situations where life doesn't make sense and people take the only way out they can see. I decided to look this up, and apparently it is actually legal defense. It's typically used in conjunction with either self-defense or just someone truly snapping due to years of abuse. It was a little creepy though that the lady was so calm and just offered tea while the dude was literally dead in a chair 20 feet away. I wish we could have gotten a little update from OP about what happened to the lady. Like, did she go to jail, some mental facility, or did she get off with no charges? Story 4. Got a call from an emotionally disturbed person. Arrive on scene and a 350-pound man built like an NFL lineman is passed out on the floor face down. His wife says he suffers from PTSD from the first Iraq War and that he was an Army Ranger. He'd been drinking heavily. His son is on scene and is about 16 years old. The man begins to wake up and proceeds to smash his forehead into the ground repeatedly. We called for an ambulance. A small pool of blood begins to form on the floor. The wife grabs a rag and goes to wipe it up when this guy's head jerks up real quick, his face contorted in rage. He grabs his wife by the neck and throws her clear across the room onto the couch. We immediately jump on him, but he is preternaturally strong. There are 4 of us and we're fighting one limb. The kid jumps in and helps us get 2 sets of cuffs on him because one set was not wide enough to connect his wrist behind his back. I ride in the ambulance to the hospital with him while he glares at me, angrily reciting his military registration number and telling me I won't get any information out of him and that I'm a towelhead. I don't remotely look like I'm from the region. The entire ride, I hope that he doesn't break out of the cuffs. If I'm being honest, I'm not sure he would have gained control of him if the kid hadn't helped. Story 5. Responding to a domestic, and when I showed up, I heard a lot of yelling and banging. A friend of the family was standing outside screaming for help. I saw my backup down the block, so I decided to run in on my own, figuring he'd be right behind me. I saw 2 older siblings, brother and sister, practically choking each other out while a younger sister tried to jump over the older sister and stabbed the brother with a knife. I didn't see the knife until I was right next to them, and when I did see it, my first reaction was to grab the younger sister by the wrist, slam her arm into the wall, to knock the knife out and throw her to the ground. I then held her with my left hand as I elbowed the big sister in the face to separate her from the brother. The brother then came at me and I ended punching him in the sternum, which sent him to the ground. He landed next to the knife and looked at it as though he's gonna grab it. I drew down on him and told him not to move. All 4 of us then looked at each other in silence for what felt like a minute before that officer who was down the block ran in. First words out of his mouth were, "I ran into the wrong apartment." It was a solid oh crap moment up until then though. Somebody asked, "So why were they trying to kill each other?" Another person commented, "Monopoly." This partner was about as useless as the little Mediterranean Avenue part of the Monopoly map. So yeah, good job to OP, but that partner was really not helpful. This is another story where I wish I could have gotten a little bit more backstory on why the fight got so bad and what happened afterwards. Story 6. I'm not a cop, but my younger brother is. On his first night out of field training, so the first night he's not riding with an instructor, he and his equally new partner were heading back to the station at the end of the night around 2 a.m. He's driving down a major street and there are 2 SUVs hauling butt the other direction. All of a sudden, someone leans out the rear window of the second vehicle and starts firing rounds from a rifle at his car heading in the opposite direction. Naturally, they flip around and give chase and call it out on the radio. He said it was either the fact that his partner was screaming his head off into the radio, or the fact that it was the 2 rookies getting shot at. But the entire city's police force came down on them in about 2 minutes. They ended up catching both vehicles. Turns out it was some sort of dispute at a bar between the occupants of the SUVs. Vehicle 2 was chasing Vehicle 1. Saw the cops, who had no idea about any of it, coming the other way, and decided to take it up a couple notches. Story 7. As a rookie, I was responding to an alarm at a restaurant that was supposed to be haunted by a woman. The first officer that arrived was an older officer that didn't do much and didn't ever get excited on the radio. As soon as he arrived, he asked for a second unit in a high-pitched tone. As I pulled in, he had his shotgun out and he was leaning up over his hood. My first thought was, oh crap, someone's breaking in. When I ran up to him and asked what's up, all he said was as he pulled up and his lights hit the building, a woman jumped off the roof and disappeared. He was clearly shaken. Me and another officer checked the building and found no evidence that someone had been there. It made an impression on me, and I never went back to the restaurant at night without another officer. Maybe this place was haunted, but if we want to try and be a little rational, the guy could have been having a visual hallucination, or just seeing things in the dark that was fed by a rumor he heard. Or, if we want to be a little more fun, maybe it really was a ghost. If so, I'm surprised that place is still in business, especially if all of their guests are seeing people jump off of buildings. Story 8. Does it count if it was my dad? Mom took me and my siblings to the doctor one day, turned off her cell as per doctor's office policy back then. Fast forward a few hours, we pull up to our house and there's a cop car waiting for us in the driveway. Not my dad's. Anyone with family in law enforcement knows having a cop at your door that isn't your loved one is something you never want to experience. Long story short, my dad's flashbang malfunctioned and detonated in his pocket during a call out. He was SWAT. Definitely an oh crap moment for him and everyone in the back of the van. He very nearly bled out and they couldn't get a hold of my mom. She swears the whole department was in that waiting room when we got there. And my dad lived to tell the tale. Love him. Story 9. Ex-cop from NSW Australian here. A guy once died in a motorcycle accident. We went to deliver the death message to his girlfriend. After reading the collision report, the truck driver said he just pulled straight in front of him, like a deliberate suicide. She was not answering, so we forced entry. The shelves of the fridge were on the kitchen floor. Opening the fridge, we discovered multiple pillowcases, with her cut-up body inside. That was certainly an oh crap moment. At first, I was thinking we were gonna hear a story about the girlfriend just bawling when she got told the news. But that was legit one of the biggest plot twists I have ever read. Now it makes a lot more sense why the guy did what he did with the truck. Story 10. My husband has been a police officer for over 20 years. One night, he was patrolling the downtown area when he noticed a purse someone had left behind. He opened the bag to check for ID and found a turd. Some lady took a big old poop in her bag and left it behind. He'll talk about autopsies and burnt bodies, but that is the one story he would rather forget. Somebody commented, literal oh crap moment. Story 11. I pulled up on a teen sleeping in a vehicle at the end of a country road. When I ran the license plate, I found out that he was reported as a runaway. The doors on the vehicle were locked, so I knocked on the window to wake him up. Once he woke up and realized what was going on, he shot himself in the mouth with the rifle he had hidden under his blanket. Rough way to start my shift. Story 12. My older brother is a cop. He got a call about a suicidal teenager behind a school with a knife. He rolled up to the spot, and when the kid noticed him, he immediately started hacking at his own neck with the knife. My brother sprints over to him and tases him. Save the kid's life. It's all on body cam. It is freaking wild. My goodness, that sounds just horrible to see. I think a lot of people think using a knife on your own neck is easy, but honestly it's not, because it's hard to make that quick, clean hit due to angles and adrenaline and all that. It's amazing that your brother was able to help the guy, and I hope he's doing better now. Story 13. Not me, but my friend is a cop. He pulled up to an accident scene once involving a motorcycle. Gets out of his car, starts walking over, and sees the guy's helmet. Figures he'll be nice and bring it over to the guy. Well, as it turns out, the guy was still in the helmet. That sounds horrifying to just look down and see you're holding a literal dude's head. I am a little confused on how the officer didn't notice the guy's head was missing from his body until he went to get the helmet. Sounds like the priorities may be a little mixed up. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.